The world had long been plunged into darkness. The grandeur of ancient kingdoms, the era when mythological creatures roamed freely, was now only whispered in the forgotten corners of old, dusty books. Yet, this story begins in one of those fabled kingdoms, Zharil, a place said to still exist, hidden and shrouded in mystery for centuries. Our main character, Lyria, a 27-year-old historian and researcher, is determined to uncover the secrets of the ancient Zharil kingdom. Lyria had dedicated her life to studying myths and lost civilizations, and despite all the old scrolls and ancient texts pointing to Zharil's existence, no modern evidence of its location could be found. But Lyria had something others did not. A map, passed down from her late father, a map that might lead her to the fabled land. Accompanying Lyria on her perilous quest is Kael, a former Shadow Knight and master swordsman, skilled in both combat and stealth. His mysterious past ties him to the Zharil legends as well, and though his motives aren't entirely clear, Lyria trusts him as her closest ally. Their journey begins deep in the Whispering Forest, a place said to be the last known border of the Zharil kingdom before it vanished from the annals of history. The forest was alive with ancient magic, its trees twisted and towering, their branches weaving a dense canopy that blotted out the sun. As they venture deeper, strange symbols start appearing on the trees, pulsing faintly with a soft, otherworldly glow. "This is it," Lyria whispers, excitement and fear mingling in her voice. The legends say these symbols were the markers of Zharil's outer realm. Kael remains silent, his eyes scanning the shadows. "We're not alone," he finally mutters, hand instinctively moving to the hilt of his sword. The path through the forest becomes more treacherous as the symbols grow brighter, leading them to an ancient stone archway hidden beneath vines and moss. The structure radiates an eerie energy, its stone covered in the same strange runes from the trees. Lyria steps forward, entranced by the arch. This is a gateway. But to where? Before Kael can respond, the runes on the archway blaze with light, and the air around them begins to hum with power. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembles, and the gateway opens, revealing a swirling vortex of light. "We've come this far," Lyria says, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. She steps through the portal, Kael close behind. On the other side, they find themselves in a vast, breathtaking landscape unlike anything they've ever seen. The sky is tinged with hues of violet and gold, the air shimmering with magic. Towering structures of crystal and stone rise in the distance, remnants of the once great Zharil civilization. But they are not alone. As they begin to explore the ruins, they encounter strange, ethereal beings, guardians of Zharil who have been waiting for centuries to defend the secrets of their forgotten kingdom. These beings, known as the Aurelians, appear as shimmering figures made of pure light, their eyes glowing with the wisdom of ages past. One Aurelian steps forward, its voice echoing through the air, though its lips do not move. "Why have you come to Zharil, trespassers?" Lyria, awestruck but determined, steps forward. "We seek knowledge, the truth of what happened to your people, and perhaps to restore what was lost." The Aurelian gazes at her for a long moment before speaking. "The truth comes with a price, mortal, and not all who seek it survive." Kael tightens his grip on his sword, his body tense, ready for a fight. But Lyria shakes her head. "We're not here to fight." The Aurelian tilts its head. "Then you may proceed. But beware, Zharil is not as it once was. Dark forces dwell within its heart. They will not let you leave easily." As they venture deeper into Zharil, the air grows heavier, and the once majestic ruins begin to give way to darker, more twisted landscapes. Shadows move in the corners of their vision, and whispers fill the air. Lyria and Kael soon realize that Zharil's fall was not due to war or natural disaster, but something far worse. A darkness had corrupted the heart of the kingdom, a malevolent force that still lingered, waiting for the chance to spread beyond the forgotten borders. At the center of Zharil lies the Obsidian Tower, the source of the corruption. Lyria knows that to uncover the truth and survive, they must confront whatever evil resides there. The journey toward the Obsidian Tower was treacherous. With each step closer, The air thickened with malevolence, and the once beautiful landscapes now shifted into barren, desolate wastelands. Kael walked beside Lyria, his eyes sharp, hand resting on the hilt of his sword. He had seen battle, but there was something about Zharil that unnerved him in a way he hadn't felt before. Lyria's determination, however, remained steadfast. The weight of centuries of history, of secrets that had destroyed civilizations, now pressed down on her. But amidst that weight, there was an undeniable draw between her and Kael. It wasn't just the quest that pulled them together, but something more primal. "You haven't told me everything about why you're here, Kael," Lyria said as they made their way through the skeletal ruins of a once grand palace. The wind whispered through the cracks in the stone, a haunting echo of what once was. Kael paused, his gaze far away. "I have my reasons," he finally said, his tone distant. Lyria glanced at him, frustration simmering beneath her calm exterior. "If we're going to face what's ahead, I need to know I can trust you." "You can trust me," he replied, meeting her gaze with intensity. But his words left something unsaid, and she knew it. As they approached the base of the obsidian tower, the world around them began to warp. Shadows moved unnaturally, creeping across the ground like living beings. Lyria could feel them, the whispers of forgotten souls trapped within the darkness, tugging at her mind. "We should go back," Kael muttered, his voice low. "This place, it's cursed." But Lyria shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "We're too close. This is what I came for." At the entrance to the tower, they encountered a grand set of doors, black as night, with strange symbols etched into them. Symbols that pulsed with an eerie crimson glow. Without warning, the doors swung open, revealing a vast, cavernous hall inside. The atmosphere was thick with dread, and as they stepped into the darkness, Lyria felt something shift in the air. There was a presence ancient and powerful watching them. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The heart of Zharil, the source of all this darkness." Kael's hand brushed against hers, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt through her. In that moment, she felt the connection between them grow stronger. An unspoken bond forged in the fires of danger and the looming threat of the unknown. At the heart of the tower, they found an ancient throne room. But on the throne sat not a king, but a figure shrouded in shadow. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and his voice echoed in the empty hall as he spoke. "Mortals, you have come far, but you tread in a place where no living soul should walk." Lyria's heart raced as she stepped forward, Kael by her side. "Who are you?" she demanded. "And what happened to Zharil?" The figure chuckled, the sound cold and hollow. "I am Malakar, the keeper of secrets. The fall of Zharil was not the work of men or gods, but of their own greed. They sought power and I gave it to them, but at a cost." Lyria's breath caught in her throat. "The corruption," Malakar's eyes glinted. "It began here in this tower. The kings of Zharil thought they could control the darkness, but it consumed them, and now it will consume you." Without warning, the shadows around them erupted into life, twisting and writhing like serpents. Kael drew his sword, the blade gleaming in the dim light as he prepared to fight. But Malakar only smiled, his voice a low whisper in the dark. "The secrets of Zharil cannot be undone. They are bound to this land, and to you." As they fought their way through the swarming darkness, it became clear that this battle was not one of swords and brute strength alone. The shadows were manifestations of the very secrets that had destroyed Zharil, and they fed on fear, on doubt, on the bonds that connected the souls of those who dared to enter the tower. In the midst of the chaos, Lyria and Kael found themselves back to back, their movements synchronized in perfect harmony. There was something deeper at play between them now, something that went beyond the physical. Their fates were intertwined, and the shadows seemed to recognize that, trying to tear them apart. But as the battle raged on, Kael turned to Lyria, his voice raw. "Lyria, I never told you the truth about why I came here." Lyria, her chest heaving from the exertion of the fight, glanced at him, her heart pounding. "Now's not the time for confessions, Kael." But Kael shook his head, his eyes burning with intensity. "It's everything. I came to Zharil because of you. I've been searching for you for years. Lyria froze, the weight of his words crashing over her. What? Kael's voice was hoarse as he continued, slashing through a shadowed figure. Your father, he knew more than he told you. He knew about the curse, the bond, the prophecy. We were bound to this place, to this fight, long before we ever set foot in Zharil. In the heart of the battle, Lyria's mind swirled with revelations. Everything she thought she knew had been a lie. The map, her father's legacy. It had all been part of a larger plan, one that connected her to Kael and the fate of Zharil itself. With the shadows closing in, Malakar's laughter echoed in the distance. You cannot escape fate, he hissed. The darkness will claim you, as it claimed all who came before. But Lyria refused to accept that. She had come too far to be swallowed by the same corruption that had destroyed Zharil. And in Kael's eyes, she saw the same determination, the same resolve to break the cycle. There has to be a way, Lyria whispered. A way to end this. Kael nodded, his hand finding hers amidst the chaos. Together, as the shadows swirled around them, the two of them stood at the center of the storm, their hands intertwined, their bond the only light in the overwhelming darkness. Lyria closed her eyes, focusing on the connection between them, on the strength they shared. And slowly, the darkness began to recede, the shadows shrinking back as the power of their bond pushed against the corruption that had plagued Zharil for centuries. With a final burst of light, the shadows evaporated, leaving only silence in their wake. The obsidian tower, once a beacon of darkness, was now still and quiet. Malakar was gone, his presence nothing more than a fading memory. Lyria and Kael stood together, their hands still clasped, their breathing ragged from the battle. But they had won. The darkness had been defeated. In the distance, the ruins of Zharil began to shimmer with light once more, the ancient magic of the land returning as the curse was lifted. The kingdom that had been lost for centuries was now free. But as they stood amidst the ruins, Lyria knew that their journey wasn't over. Zharil's secrets had been revealed, but there was still so much more to uncover. About her father, about the prophecy, and about the bond she shared with Kael. And so, with the dawn breaking over the horizon, Lyria and Kael set out once more, their hearts bound not only by the fate of Zharil but by something deeper, something neither of them could fully understand yet. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that as long as they stood side by side, they could overcome anything. As Lyria and Kael made their way through the now-dimmed obsidian tower, they couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered. A subtle hum in the air, an echo of the darkness they had just vanquished. Zharil's curse might have been lifted, but the land still held secrets. The light of dawn washed over the kingdom's ruins, casting long shadows as they walked. Lyria glanced at Kael, their earlier confession hanging between them. His eyes were distant, lost in thought. But she could feel it. The connection between them had grown stronger with each passing moment. It was undeniable now, even if neither of them could fully comprehend the depth of it. There's still more here, Kael murmured as they reached a stone altar at the center of the kingdom's heart. The altar glowed faintly, as if it were alive, pulsating with a strange energy. This place, it's older than Zharil itself, older than the curse. Lyria frowned, her fingers brushing against the ancient stone. Then it's not over, is it? This was only the beginning. Kael nodded, his jaw clenched. We've uncovered the truth of the curse, but there are forces at play far older and far more dangerous than what we've faced. Lyria's heart raced. The feeling of impending danger hadn't left her since they entered Zharil. Whatever lay ahead, it would be even more terrifying than the darkness they had just fought. But before they could take another step, a low voice filled the air, soft but chilling. You cannot escape the truth of your lineage, Lyria. Both of them froze, spinning around to find a figure stepping out of the shadows. A man, draped in a cloak as dark as night, his face hidden beneath a hood. His presence was as cold as the grave. Who are you? Kael demanded, drawing his sword. The man didn't flinch, his voice a haunting whisper. I am the seer, keeper of what was and what will be. I have watched over Zharil for centuries, waiting for the day when the chosen would return. Lyria's breath caught. Chosen? What do you mean? The seer stepped forward, his face still obscured by the hood. The darkness was never Zharil's true curse. The real curse is far older, and it runs through your bloodline, Lyria. Your father knew this. He hid the truth from you because he feared what you would become. Kael stepped closer to Lyria, his protective instincts kicking in. What are you talking about? The seer turned his gaze to Kael, his voice grave. The bond you share with her. It is not just a coincidence. You were both destined to stand here at this moment. The fates have woven your lives together for a reason. Lyria shook her head, her mind racing. What do you mean? What curse? The seer's lips curved into a thin smile. The curse of Zharil was merely a veil. The true power lies within you, Lyria. You are the key to awakening the ancient force that slumbers beneath this land. And once it awakens, nothing will ever be the same. The ground beneath them began to tremble as the seer's words settled in. Lyria felt a strange pull deep within her chest, a power she had never known stirring inside her. It was both terrifying and exhilarating. Kael reached out, gripping her arm. Lyria, whatever this is, we can stop it. But the seer's voice cut through the chaos. No one can stop it now. The force that has slumbered for millennia is awakening, and it will consume all in its path unless you learn to control it. Lyria's heart pounded in her chest, the energy within her growing stronger by the second. She looked at Kael, fear and uncertainty in her eyes. What if I can't control it? Kael's grip tightened. You can. We'll figure this out together. But the seer only laughed, his voice echoing through the ruins. There is no together, Kael. The bond between you was forged by fate, but it cannot save you from what is coming. Lyria must face this alone. Lyria's pulse raced as she stepped forward, her hands trembling with the weight of the power building inside her. If this force awakens, what happens to me? The seer's smile faded, his voice a cold whisper. You become its vessel. The air was thick with tension as Lyria stood before the ancient altar, her mind a whirlwind of fear, doubt, and raw power. She could feel the force within her stirring, begging to be released. But to do so would mean surrendering to something far greater than herself, something she wasn't sure she could control. Kael watched her, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to help her, to protect her, but he knew that this was a battle she had to face on her own. Lyria, whatever happens, I'm with you. Lyria's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, everything else fell away. The bond between them, the love, the trust, the unspoken connection, was stronger than anything they had ever faced. But the seer's voice echoed in her mind. You cannot run from your destiny, Lyria. The force will awaken, whether you are ready or not. With a deep breath, Lyria turned to the altar. The power surged within her, demanding to be unleashed. She knew that if she didn't act, the force would consume everything in its path. Zharil, the world beyond, and even Kael. Her heart pounded in her chest as she placed her hands on the altar, feeling the ancient energy pulse beneath her fingertips. She had to make a choice. Embrace the power and become the vessel for the force, or find a way to stop it before it was too late. Kael stepped closer, his voice low and steady. Whatever you choose, Lyria, I'll stand by you. Lyria closed her eyes, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The force inside her was powerful, dangerous. But maybe, just maybe, she could control it. She had come too far to turn back now. With a final, deep breath, Lyria opened her eyes and made her choice. The kingdom of Zharil had been saved, its darkness banished and its secrets revealed. But Lyria knew that her journey was far from over. The power within her still pulsed, a reminder of the force that slumbered beneath the surface. As she and Kael stood on the edge of the kingdom, looking out over the horizon, Lyria felt a strange sense of peace. The danger was not gone, but for the first time, she felt in control of her destiny. Kael's hand found hers, and she turned to him with a smile. We did it, she whispered. Kael nodded, his eyes filled with warmth and affection. Together, And as the sun set on the ruins of Zharil, Lyria knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, bound not by fate, but by the strength of their love.